As one of the most eccentric leaders out there, Steve Jobs knew the value of maintaining control and secrecy over his organization. One of the primary ways that Steve Jobs exerted this control was over what he called control over the big and little, which is the most grandiose aspects of what the product looks like, the packaging, all that stuff, to the minimal aspects like the cafeteria food his employees ate, or the bus that they took to different functions. Having control and understanding over even these most minute details ensures consistency across the board. It ensures that Steve Jobs' characteristic vision is being carried out across all stages, not only how the product is designed, but also on how his employees are functioning, how they operate, because every one of them is supposed to be a face of the company. Furthermore, Jobs had an immense amount of control over himself, his image, and how he was being perceived, because like Kyle spoke about in his previous webinar, the vision of Steve Jobs was critical to the entirety of the process. As Confucius once said, nothing says efficiency and vision like black turtlenecks and jeans. Steve Jobs also propounded what was called a culture of strict accountability. Now, people should be doing their jobs as specialists at Apple. Everybody should be knowing not only what they're doing today, but what they're going to be doing tomorrow, the next day, the next week, the next month, and the next year. So Steve Jobs ensured that everybody knew exactly what they should be doing, and they were strictly accountable because of that process for all of their work. Jobs also set a strict agenda for his managers and staff. 80% of the content came from the week before, which ensured consistency of both achieving objectives and addressing the goals that they had set the week before. Also 20% came from future goals, new things. And this kept Apple on that progressive cutting edge, always moving forward. And that's what Steve actually imagined in his vision. So he always wanted Apple to be moving forward, and setting these agendas keeps the company focused on that. People also knew that if they didn't do their job the right way, or the Steve Jobs way, they wouldn't be doing it for very long. By hiring these quality, important, Steve Jobs called it investing in people. By hiring these high-quality performing people, it was easy to hold them to higher standards because they expected to be held to higher standards because they were proven competent in their fields. They were the specialists that he wanted. There was a famous example where Jobs brutally enforced some of his rules. He had this edict on password protecting your iPod, because, or your iPhone rather, because as we'll talk about in a couple minutes, secrecy was very important to him. So he would walk around the Apple campus, talk to an employee at random, get their iPhone, and if it wasn't password protected, he would fire them on the spot. Now that may seem a little extreme to some of you, but I bet that most people on that Apple campus have their iPhones protected. So kind of talking about this, this element of secrecy, he understood the power of this public anticipation. He created with his anticipation and with this secrecy what we call in marketing brand evangelists. And what brand evangelists are, they're people who don't just like the product or buy the product, they're people who live the product. They research it, they'll wait in line around the block, as Steve Jobs says, to see the next Apple product, to buy it. And when you can create such passion for a brand, you know you're doing something right. So Steve tried to keep everything close to the heart, which is a very important quote to us. He tried to keep everything close to the heart in an effort to create a frenzy over his products. Furthermore, he used to have a old World War II, like in a classic World War II poster on his desk that said, "Loose lips might sink ships." Just kind of emphasizing again how important the value of keeping things close to the heart and keeping things within Apple to Apple actually was. So all of these concepts might seem a little lofty and easily applicable to a larger organization, but I'm going to tell you now how you can apply it to an average work group on your individual level. Now, as a manager, it's important to facilitate your meetings with a purpose. Make sure everybody goes into that meeting knowing that there's going to be stuff done, and goes out of that meeting know exactly what is expected of them, what's expected of the group, and the quality that you expect of them. Also, as a manager, it's important to design an agenda that remains consistent. You don't want to set new items every single week. You can do some, and it doesn't have to be 80-20. But what you want to do is make sure that the goals you set last week are being addressed. Because if they fall to the wayside, the cumulative effect of that is you're not going to be performing as highly as you anticipated. Also, know the deliverables. Understand your team members' work. Understand what they're working. Understand their parts and understand how they're supposed to be doing it. Because if you do, then you'll be able to ensure the consistency and success that the group agreed upon in the beginning. Further, have clear, defined standards. I can't emphasize how important it is, can't emphasize enough how important it is to have these clear standards, because they demonstrate the apparent nature of mess-ups, which isn't necessarily, you don't want to focus on the negative, but what they do is they make sure everybody knows that they're going to be held accountable for their work. And they ensure, again, that consistency and high-quality work that every group strives for. Furthermore, managers, it's important for you to keep your fingers on the pulse of all of the group activities. Make sure everybody's not only performing at a high level, but make sure that they are paying attention to what you're doing. Make sure that they're satisfied with the way the group operates, and also make sure they're doing it in a way that most benefits the organization. Now, by maintaining an atmosphere of control and secrecy over your organization and keeping information close to the heart, the average work group can step up to an above average or even a great work group. And by maintaining and carrying across the lessons you learned from such great leaders as Steve Jobs, you can really, really take your organization to the next level and go from good to great. But don't take our word for it necessarily. Take out your iPhone, which you probably have. Apple's very good at what they do. Google what Apple's net worth is, and we'll still be here when you're counting the zeros, I promise. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.